She snatched it right out of my daughter's hands. "What is this? A vape?" she shouted, loud enough for half the neighborhood to hear. My daughter, just 12, looked frozen. Her eyes welled up, but she didn't say a word. We were standing right outside our own front door. I had just come home from a night shift, still in my plain hoodie, not my uniform. I didn't even get to put my keys down before I heard the yelling. Karen, president of our so-called HOA, was already storming across our lawn like she owned it, her ugly little clipboard tucked under her arm, and a face full of rage like we'd just burned the flag. I stepped between them. "That's her allergy medication," I said calmly, holding out my hand, but Karen wasn't listening. She clutched the small medical inhaler like it was a bomb, waving it in the air for dramatic effect. "This is not allowed in this community. No vaping, no drugs, especially not by minors." "She's not vaping," I repeated. "That's prescription. You need to give that back." Karen narrowed her eyes at me, scanning me up and down. "You live here?" she asked, like I was a trespasser. "Yes," I said, "since 2016. "Well, I've never seen you before," she snapped. "And I've definitely never approved your daughter to be on HOA property." It wasn't just the words, it was the way she said them. Like we were pests, outsiders, dirt. I glanced at my daughter. She was shaking. "She's asthmatic," I said. "You just grabbed her emergency meds," Karen scoffed. "Then maybe she shouldn't be out here at all." And that's when she did something no one expected. She pulled out her phone and started dialing. "I'm calling the police," she said. "This is child endangerment and drug use." I looked at her quietly, for a second too long. Then I said, "You sure you want to do that?" And in that moment, something shifted. Karen hesitated, but her pride wouldn't let her stop. "You better believe it," she said. "People like you don't belong in this neighborhood." I smiled, because she didn't know. She just called the cops. On the cop, 10 minutes later, 2 patrol cars pulled up, lights flashing, sirens off, quiet, but serious. Karen stood proudly at the curb, waving them down like she'd just spotted a terrorist. She didn't even glance back at me, just pointed straight at my daughter. "There," she said, loud and clear. "That's the girl. She had a vape. And I think he's her father." He got aggressive with me when I confronted them. My daughter was sitting on the porch, still shaken, her small frame curled up like she was trying to disappear into the steps. I stood behind her, arms folded, not moving an inch. The 2 officers got out. I recognized them both, Rodriguez and Miller. We'd done training together last year. Rodriguez's eyes landed on me first. He blinked once, confused, then again, realizing. "James?" I gave him a small nod. Karen's jaw dropped. "Wait, you know him?" Rodriguez walked right past her, straight to me. "Why didn't you say anything, man?" I shrugged. Didn't want to waste the surprise. Karen's face started to twitch, but she wasn't ready to let go of the story just yet. "She had drugs," she shouted, jabbing her finger at the porch. "You need to search them." I confiscated it myself. Rodriguez looked over. I raised an eyebrow and tilted my head slightly. He followed my gaze to the small plastic inhaler on her clipboard. He picked it up, turned it over once, and sighed. "This is Flovent. It's asthma medication. Prescribed, sealed." "You took this from a child?" Karen started stammering. I thought it was. She looked like. Miller stepped in then. His voice wasn't loud, but it was sharp. "Ma'am, you just filed a false report and illegally took medical equipment from a minor. That's not just a misunderstanding. That's a serious problem." Karen's face went pale. But I'm the HOA president." Rodriguez's voice turned cold. "This isn't about a neighborhood meeting. You don't get to threaten kids, or take their medicine, or lie to us." She tried to interrupt, but he held up a hand. "Save it. We've had complaints about you before." That's when I stepped forward quietly. "I've got the doorbell footage too," I said. "Full audio." Karen froze. I wasn't bluffing. That little black ring camera by our front door had caught everything, her yelling, grabbing the inhaler, threatening to call the cops. For a moment, no one said anything. Then Karen did the one thing no one saw coming. She ran. She didn't even make it past the neighbor's driveway. Rodriguez caught her by the arm as she stumbled, still clutching her clipboard like it was some kind of shield. "Ma'am," he said firmly, "you're not under arrest yet. But if you keep running, that's gonna change." Karen spun around. her face twisted in pure disbelief. I was just trying to protect the neighborhood. That man's hiding something. His daughter was on HOA property. Miller stepped in. They were on their own front porch. Karen's lips quivered. She looked at me, then at the cops, then back at the inhaler in Rodriguez's hand. I didn't know she was sick, she whispered. Rodriguez looked her dead in the eye. You didn't ask. Karen's voice cracked. I thought it was a vape. Kids lie. They sneak stuff. I stepped forward, but kept my voice even. She wasn't sneaking anything. She was using her medication until you grabbed it. You didn't ask questions. You assumed. And now you're panicking because you're finally getting called out. That landed hard. Karen stood frozen, staring at the ground. For the first time, her confidence cracked wide open. No fake notices. No HOA rules. Just silence. But the moment didn't last long, because that's when a voice called out from across the street. Hey, a man waved from his yard. Is this about Karen again? Rodriguez turned. You know her? The guy walked over, holding a cup of coffee. Yeah, I've got her on my camera too from last week. She put a fake violation notice on our mailbox and told my wife she couldn't park in our driveway. Karen spun toward him. That's not true. But the man didn't even flinch. We have the footage. Want me to send it? Rodriguez nodded. Please do. Karen's breathing turned shallow. Her eyes darted like a cornered animal. Then came the real twist. The neighbor added, oh, and get this, she's not even officially with the HOA. She was removed 6 months ago after a vote. But she kept the clipboard, kept harassing people. Nobody reported her. Until now. Dead silence. Even Miller looked stunned. I glanced at Karen. So you've been pretending to have authority this whole time? Her eyes were wide, lips trembling. She looked like someone who just realized the ground under them wasn't real. Rodriguez looked at Miller. We're gonna need a statement. And that footage. Karen finally spoke, barely a whisper. I was just trying to keep things under control. I looked at my daughter, who was now standing beside me, strong again. No, I said. You just liked having power. The officers took statements from the neighbor, downloaded the doorbell footage, and even asked if I wanted to press charges. I looked at Karen. She wasn't shouting anymore, wasn't acting like the queen of the block. She just sat on the curb staring into nothing. Her clipboard had been taken from her. Her lies were exposed. And her neighbors? They were all starting to come out now. First, it was the man across the street. Then 2 more women walked over, both holding their phones like they'd been waiting for this day. She told me my kid's wheelchair ramp wasn't up to HOA standards. One of them said, holding up her phone, tried to find me $300. She locked our community pool and said she had the only key. The other added, I had to climb the fence just to take my toddler swimming. Rodriguez looked at me. This might go bigger than just today. I nodded. I figured. Karen kept her head down, but the twist wasn't over, because just then, a silver SUV pulled up fast and parked at the edge of the lawn. A tall woman in her 50s stepped out, furious. Karen Louise Whitmore. She shouted. Everyone turned. Karen looked up slowly, recognition and dread filling her face. Mom? The woman stomped across the yard. What did you do? I just got a call from the whole board. You've been impersonating a chair you were voted out of half a year ago. Karen whispered something, but her mom cut her off. You told me you were back on. You said they begged you to return. Rodriguez raised an eyebrow at me. I leaned in slightly and whispered, family twist. He smirked. Karen's mom faced the officers. I'm on the board. I'm one of the 3 actual voting members. We never reinstated her. We even sent out a neighborhood bulletin. Nobody paid attention because they were afraid. Karen stood up suddenly. I was helping. Nobody else had the guts to enforce the rules. Her mom's voice cut like glass. You were enforcing your own power trip. Then she turned to me. I'm so sorry, she said, for what she did to your daughter, to all of you. I gave a nod, but stayed quiet. Rodriguez took a deep breath. Well, I think we've got enough here to start pressing charges. Impersonation, harassment, possibly theft. Karen backed away slightly. You're not serious. Miller pulled out the citation pad. I'd say we're just getting started. Karen was in full panic now. Her hands shook. Her eyes darted from her mother to the cops to the growing group of neighbors watching every second. You can't do this, she muttered. I was just trying to protect the community. Rodriguez didn't flinch. You faked authority, stole medical property, and filed a false police report. That's not protection. That's a felony cocktail. Karen turned to her mom, desperate now. You're really gonna let them do this to me? Your own daughter? Her mother crossed her arms. I let you do this to yourself. That silence hit hard. For once, Karen looked small, not just legally exposed but personally abandoned. Still, she had one last card to play. She turned to me, eyes pleading now. Come on, we're neighbors. Just drop it. No harm done, right? I glanced at my daughter, standing there strong but quiet, and my voice came out low and even. You made her afraid to breathe. Karen opened her mouth like she might argue, but nothing came out, because there was no argument. Rodriguez stepped forward. You're not under arrest yet, but you are being cited and placed under investigation. And I strongly suggest you don't step foot on anyone else's property unless invited, Miller added, including your mom's. The crowd stirred at that. A couple of quiet laughs slipped out. Karen's mom nodded slowly. She won't be back on HOA business. I'll make sure of that. Karen just stood there, red-faced and crumbling, as Miller handed her the citation slip. Her clipboard was now in Rodriguez's hands, evidence officially. Then for just a moment, she looked at my daughter. There was something in her eyes. Maybe guilt, maybe shame, but definitely not enough. She looked away quickly, and just like that, she turned and walked toward her SUV. Nobody said goodbye. No one waved. We just watched her drive off, alone, humiliated, and for the first time, powerless. And that's when Rodriguez turned to me and said, You want to know the real kicker? I raised an eyebrow. Hit me. She tried to call in the cops. On a cop. In front of his own house. I smiled. That's gonna look real good on the report. The neighborhood didn't go back to normal right away, but something shifted. People who used to peek through their blinds started coming outside again. The fear that Karen had planted with her fake rules and threats was finally cracking open. And for the first time in months, the air felt lighter. The next day, I walked my daughter to the bus stop like always. But this time, people waved. A few even came up to us, quiet, nervous, but thankful. One older man, maybe in his 70s, stepped up and shook my hand. Didn't know you were law enforcement, he said. Wish we'd had someone like you around earlier. I told him, you've always had someone. You just needed the truth to come out. But the calm didn't last long, because later that afternoon, a letter showed up in our mailbox. No return address. Just one sheet of paper, typed. We don't like snitches. Watch your back. No name, no signature, just that. I stood there for a second rereading it, then I scanned the street, same houses, same lawns, but suddenly, a new threat. I took the letter inside, scanned it, and logged it into a report. Rodriguez picked it up an hour later and promised they'd start checking nearby mailboxes and prints. My wife got home early from work that day. I hadn't told her everything yet, just the basics. But as soon as she saw the look on my face, she knew something was wrong. I showed her the letter. She didn't flinch. Instead, she took out her phone and tapped on an app I almost forgot. We had security cameras installed in the garage, backyard, mailbox. And yes, one right above the porch, pointed at the street. We rolled the footage back to the exact time the letter had to be delivered. And there it was, a shadow moving fast, hoodie up, on a bike. They didn't ring the bell, didn't even stop fully, just tossed the envelope and sped off. But they made a mistake. The hood slipped for half a second, long enough to catch a face. I paused the frame, zoomed in. It wasn't Karen. It was someone worse. Her nephew, the same kid she once claimed was helping her with HOA paperwork. A teenager, which meant this wasn't over. Karen may have been gone, but she left someone behind. That night, I couldn't sleep. The footage kept replaying in my head, that flash of his face, the way he bolted off like he'd done this before. Karen's fingerprints were all over it. Even if she wasn't the one who delivered the threat, I knew exactly what this was. She wasn't just angry. She was planting seeds, and I had a daughter to protect. The next morning, I filed for a restraining order. Not just against Karen, but her nephew too. Rodriguez fast-tracked it, and I added the footage to the case. It wasn't just about a letter anymore. It was about the message. Karen still thought she had control. She still thought she could shake us. But what she didn't know is that I'd already started digging. While she was busy playing Hoa Queen, I'd begun looking into her real records, property, employment history, complaints filed against her, and what I found. A pattern. Karen had moved through 3 neighborhoods in the last 6 years, and every time, the same thing happened. She joined the HOA, climbed to a fake position of power, stirred chaos, and got removed. Then she vanished before legal action could catch up, until now, because she didn't run fast enough this time. Rodriguez helped connect me to a woman in her previous neighborhood. HOA treasurer. She told me Karen had once cut off someone's water as punishment for painting their fence the wrong color, and that wasn't even the worst of it. There were whispers of her nephew being involved before to slashed tires, threatening notes, even a raccoon carcass dumped in someone's garden as a warning. I stared at the case file and thought, this woman's not just controlling, she's dangerous. But then came the twist I didn't see coming. That afternoon, a black SUV parked 2 houses down. Not police, not press, private. A woman got out, dressed in dark business clothes, sunglasses, clipboard in hand. She walked up to my door, calm but sharp. "Mr. Walker?" she asked. "Yes, I'm with Internal Affairs. I'm here about Karen Whitmore, and we think you're not the only officer she's targeted."